Hey boys, what's up? Paul K here, Saturday Mornings Outdoors. Sun's just coming up over the mountain and we're on the canal fishing for stripers. And nice cool morning, low humidity. Big switch up like last week. The past half a year has been so humid and you gotta peel yourself off of everything. But not so now, nice and pleasantly cool this morning. Stay tuned, let's see if we can catch some stripers. And I'd like to give a quick shout out to Bob, and he just stopped by on his bike. He's cruising up and down. He said he's catching fish on the west tides in the afternoon. And thanks for stopping by. And nice to meet you. And telling me about how the fishing's been lately, and it's been pretty consistent so far from what I hear. So let's go. So right now I'm fishing on the west tide. The flip's about an hour. It's going to turn east an hour or so. And it is the last quarter of the moon. And then we'll come up on the new moon, and that'll be kind of cool for the currents next week. Temperatures, I think it's around 63 degrees when I was in my car on the way up. And barometric pressure is 29.98 and rising. We had rain for overcast for a few days, and now it's cleared out and we're supposed to get sun again. But it's cool that it's no pun intended, cool that there's no humidity. So that's very good. Wind is out of the normal southwest. I'd say it's around 6 miles an hour right now. Pretty placid and peaceful and beautiful along the canal here. And let's see what we can do. So I had a question this week. How do I set my drag? And now, it's a very easy thing to do. Then a lot of things that you see can make it all technical with these gauges and these, pound pulls and everything, but it's pretty easy to do. Let me show you. Pretty much, if you just see if I can get down here, crank it all the way down, all as tight as you can on the drag, so you can't pull anything out. Then just adjust it a little bit so you can, let's see if I can get this one so I can show you. Just barely pull it out. You just barely pull it out, and that should be about right. You don't have to get too technical with it. You don't want to go too loose, because then your line will be twisting. You don't want to go all the way down because it's too much, and especially in these heavy currents and all so forth. So if you just tighten it down as hard as you can go, and then just back it off until you can just barely pull it out. That's salt and fresh water, and it's perfect. There's only one other method that I use, and it's definitely in fresh water. When I'm using like literally 2-pound test with my Xander noodle rods for trout fishing, I will crank the drag all the way down as tight as I can get it, and I just put the anti-reverse off. And so when the fish pulls and makes the rod bend, I just backpedal with the fish. And if you do that, he can never break you off, ever. You could be using 1-pound test with an 8-pound bass, and he can't break you off because you're backpedaling. But the key is you have to keep the line tight, no slack, and you just have to be on it, because if you screw up once, he'll surge forward and pop your line. But I have big success with that. But that's only on super, super light lines and so forth like that. Normally with the circles, it's tighten it all the way down, back it off just a hair until you can barely pull it off, and that's it. And it's pretty easy to do. It's very before the circles came along, I get where the question comes from with the drag, because with the J hooks, it's just the opposite. You pretty much open your drag all the way. On these conventional reels, they have a clicker, and you open the drag all the way. Your bait's out there. When the fish takes it, you want them to run with it, to feel no resistance, and that clicker will scream. And that sound is the sound that dreams are made of. You start catching fish by that clicker sound, that zzz. It's really loud, and especially night fishing, it's an indicator that you have a strike. It is the most happy, beautiful, gorgeous, addictive sound you've ever heard in your life. If you can think that a sound is addictive. And then of course you get up, take it out, turn the clicker off, turn the drag all the way up, and then just sock it to them. You really set as hard as you can. And that was for 1,000 years, or since the 20s, since they've had spooled reels. That was the method of catching fish. Then came along the bait runners, where they had a button in the back, and those were the modes of operation. Don't throw those away, by the way, because those are circles, and this technique, jacking it all the way down, let the fish hook itself. With conventional or spinning reels, that's the way you must fish it. You don't let the fish run with it. He's going to swallow it either way, and he's going to hook himself with the circles. But don't throw your bait runners away. I used to think they were obsolete, but they're not, because you're only forced to use the circles with stripers. You know, there may be other species in other states that make you use them, but in this state it's just stripers. You can still full on, I mean, there's a million uses still for the bait runners. Catfishing, and any kind of trout fishing, any kind of fishing that you want the fish to run with it and swallow it before you sock it to them. And and using that method for bait, that's where the bait runners still shine. So don't throw your bait runners away. And if you're gonna throw them away, I'll take them. You know, and you can see the diving duck, the cormorant, swimming up and down, swimming underwater, swimming over, flying over water, flying underwater, working on bait. So I hope you guys took advantage of I had mentioned a few weeks ago, a few weeks ago, July 16th was the deadline for the doe permits. So if you haven't got your doe permit application in yet, you are screwed. Not really, because you just got to wait now. All the guys that put the permits in will get theirs, and then if there's any left over, they call that surplus. And don't even worry, they want to get rid of the does, because there's so many deer. They're so prolific that, you know, the past few years deer are everywhere, and you just have to wait. You have to wait usually to around September-ish, late September-ish, early October, and then you go in and you can get your doe permit. But if you got them in now, good work, boys. You're getting meat, because the does are, if I may say so, they're pretty stupid. If you can't get a doe, you know, I'm just saying. Yeah, maybe you can make that out the last quarter, right up in there. And there's a fish eagle, fish hawk. But yeah, last quarter. Should be new moon by next week. The mighty Mississippi slowing down now. It's about to flip over. And a few weeks ago, I was speaking of the diving birds when they were breaking fish and how to tell the difference. Well, I did a little research on them, and the best telltale fish that I know of is the smaller white birds. What I was showing you for the past couple of years on breaking fish, and they're called terns. That's all, simple, terns. Generally, they're smaller than seagulls, but they're really the indicators of where the breaking fish are. And generally, they only pretty much dive on smaller fish, on the smaller bait fish, from what I read. You're not going to see them pulling up adult pogies and stuff like that. They're just smaller birds. And then the other ones are, of course, seagulls, and those will dive and, you know, on the larger fish. Also, of course, the cormorants. Those are the black paddle birds that I show you almost every week fishing here. The ones that swim underwater, and the other ones are the sea eagles, or the fish hawks. And there's a break over there, a little breaking fish over there. The fish hawks, and those are the ones that scream, you know, really loud, and they'll literally go into a stoop and slam into the water. They're bigger birds. They're the biggest of all the birds, I believe. Probably bigger than a seagull, the wingspan. They're pretty big. They're beautiful looking birds when they're working on bait too. But so the little white birds I was speaking of are terns. They're called terns. Here we go. All right, let's see what we got. Ooh. Easy, boy. All right. Well, that was fun. The usual buffoonery. Those rocks are murderous on some of these tides. I don't know why. I know I don't want 5,000 texts on messages on corkers and all that baloney. Sometimes I just get a pair of aggressive bottom boots and they'll work fine, and you get your sea legs here, and it's gonna happen. It's part of fishing. Though you look like a dolt, you know, a clumsy oaf, but it's part of it, man. You just be careful, that's all. You can really get hurt, especially if you fall and roll. You know, if you in one of those uncontrollable, that you can kill yourself here. But you have to, honestly, after an hour or two, well, maybe a session or two, you get sea legs, but it's gonna happen. It's part of it. I think it's kind of funny. I think it's really funny, as long as you don't get hurt. But that was a decent fish, and we broke the ice, and it's starting to slow down now. So the slack is approachifying, and am I embarrassed? Kind of a little, but who gives a flying crap? It's part of it, bro. Expect it. And there you go. Rolling on. Falls do make killer shorts videos. You get like no one watches you. Even if you catch like a 30 or 40 pounder, you'll get good hits like on YouTube. But if you fall like really the worst of fall, you get like 1,000,000 hits. You people are savages. So I'm gonna try. I specifically brought extra mackerel this week. I'm gonna try something. It's coming on to straight up slack now, but once the tide starts cranking that way, I'm gonna do like. Just for the fun of it, I'm going to try like half mackerels. Normally the size of the chunks that I use, you know, I've shown you before. They're, you know, that's your average size chunk in relation to my hand, you know. But I just basically took full mackerels and just cut them in half. I just want to see if that appeal. It's more juice, there's more meat there. And I don't know how it's going to work. I don't normally fish that way. This is how I fish. But I just want to try it, you know. And that's the fun of this, is experimenting with all kinds of stuff. So we'll see what happens. So it's coming up full slack now. And it's pretty much almost still wind. It's like fishing in a pond now, you know. I have best luck when the current's cranking. At this stage of the tide, technically, historically, this is the time to fish bait, and but I don't know, the luck that I have, it's black sea bass, porgy, you know, the scup, the sand sharks, and you know, stuff that are not stripers. You know, that's generally what shows up at slack for me. I don't know, it's weird, but once that current picks up, I start getting stripers. The gentleman that stopped by this morning, we were discussing that, and it's conversely, I don't know, that's how it works out for me, that's all. When the current starts picking up, I get by far more stripers. Also, I'd like to mention this year, very strange how nature works, is that last year I was getting a lot of big fish. I got a few in the 30s, and you know, all over the place, some really small schoolies and everything. This year, it's just, and I got no slots. I didn't get one keeper last year. This year, it's bizarre. Almost every fish is anywhere. It's, you know, I've had like 4 slots so far, and everything's around that area. You know, like around between 26 and 33. Nothing bigger than that so far. Yet I haven't fished any hurricane fronts, so that's coming up, I'm sure. But that's when I seem to catch the biggest fishes, during those big hard fronts, when the barometer drops to like near 28 point something. And but it's just weird how Mother Nature, it just comes back. Like last year, large fish, super large and super small. This year, all slots. It's just strange how that works out. Like it evens out, you know. Maybe it's just a fluke. Sorry. When it's this flat and calm at slack, and you start to see little phenomenon and subtle stuff, if you really pay attention, though, you'll notice it. If you can see, I hope you can notice. But the tide's still going this way. And that's not wind current. Those, see the waves? There's no boat that's just gone by, but you can definitely see this tidal surge. And it's just that slack now, but you can see the current. You can see the water flowing. You know, it's past dead slack now, and the water's starting to flow this way. But you can actually see it in little microwaves. Being a surfer, we're in tune to that so much, but you can really, it comes in cycles too, just like wave sets. They come in cycles. And see, there's a few good ones right there, but that's called the tidal surge. And during certain moons, you can really notice it if there's no wind. When there's no wind, you really can learn a lot about the currents here. You know what? And I know this is a fact. The most accomplished fishermen here on the canal, and there are many. There's hundreds of guys here that are so good at this place, and they got everything so wired, but nobody freaking knows everything about these currents. These currents are so mesmerizing and hard to decipher. I mean, not hard to decipher, but there's so much there, you know, and no one's got it down 100%, you know. I mean, it's just, there's so much to learn, and that's the fun of it. If you could attain perfect knowledge of everything on it, it wouldn't be no fun. You get on here and just freaking, you know, there'd be nothing new for you to learn, you know. So yeah, see how you can see the swell coming in? That's the current surge. And you can really notice it on the flat days like today. Very interesting stuff. See, you can really notice it here. And there are subtle little things, you know, when you're surfing, you're just constantly staring at the horizon, and the waves that you can ride come in what are called sets. They're just fluctuations in the size of the waves, and I don't know, it varies upon every swell that comes in. See, look, you can really notice it there. Tidal surge. So around every 7th or 8th wave that comes in, the normal ones could be technically, just for the sake of conversation, waist high. But then about every 8th wave, there'll be something chest high. So it's like that. Well, that's what this is. This is the flow of the current called the tidal surge at slack, and you can see it if it's calm enough, and that's what you see. I think it's so cool. Now as the tide is switched, it's not cranking yet fully, but it's fully eastbound now. You can really see the surge because it's so flat. And there's a perfect view of it right there. There's been no boat through here for a while. That's not boat wake, that's tidal surge. That's what I was trying to show you. You can only see it on the flat days, but it's pretty impressive. The power of the moon. The moon's doing that. The moon's pulling that water to that side right now. It's amazing. A beautiful looking craft. Heading out to Buzzards Bay in the direction of the beautiful looking boat. You see that cockpit way up on top there. The king of the world. So I'm supersizing it. So I got it on the other rod too. I'll just try it. Supersized chunks, but just leave that gap open and we'll just see what happens. It's kind of a waste of money, that's all, because you can get the job done with the regular, but some guys fish with the whole mackerel, some guys fish with just half the mackerel. So I'm just curious to see what happens. I think it's just a waste. Sean. Rod definitely went down, and I went to turn the camera on, and that's it. You know, it's just, that's part of it. So I'm getting crazy hits on the big chunks, but they're not hooking up. You know, I just haven't experimented with these. It's a waste though. I mean, because this rod just 15 seconds ago doubled over, but I guess the baits are too big. They're not swallowing them, they're picking them up and swimming with them, and because they're so big, I don't know. I haven't experimented with them enough, but if I'm getting hits, I'm not going to waste them on the big baits on experimentation right now, because I want to catch fish, so I'm going to go back down to the small chunks. I've had 3 hits so far. one on this and two on that, and neither of them hooked up, and all on the big chunks. So, ay caramba. Well, here come the armada of boats, boat traffic, and that ain't good for fishing. Getting a little low on bait, so I'm going to call it quits. And thank you folks for coming along. Appreciate you guys coming along every week. And we will see you at the spot check this week. So stay tuned for this week's fishing spot. So thanks for showing up for this portion. Thank you. Bye. Just as a side note, as this tide starts to pick up, you can start to see, I showed you this spot a few weeks ago. Check with your numbers, but Rips is ripping right now. You can see it. It's almost at a standing wave. You can see that white line, massive rip that forms right across almost the whole canal right there. It's incredible. A lot of power there. A lot of disorientating bait fish in that. Disorientating. Coming up in here, cleaning up out here, and I run into a New England fishing legend. His name is Mr. Ron Arra. What?
World legend.
World legend. Oh, I'm sorry, sir, but he's world casting champion, and unbelievable status he has here. I've seen him a couple times actually up the Red Top, and I guess he's got custom rods. Look at that thing. Did you make that yourself?
No, it's designed by a company in South Korea called JS Tackle USA.
Uh-huh.
And they're coming out at the end of September for sale.
Wow. What's that model called?
10'6".
All right. But is there a name to it, or?
Yep. JS Tackle USA Ron Arra Pro Special.
American made, huh? Or American made or not American made?
South Korea.
South Korea. Okay. Well, they're our allies.
Yeah.
Very good.
And
nice looking rod, huh?
there's the signature on there.
Very good. I see that. Yeah.
And here's an 11-footer. 11-footer is rated 1 to 5 ounces.
Yep.
And this is rated 2 to 6 for the Canal for
yeah, that's the one. Yeah, yeah. Even heavier you could go too.
Seals, rubber shads, anything. Beautiful.
Very good.
And this is a great surface lure rod.
Now, what kind of reels are you running on those?
Oh, pens, of course. I'm endorsed with Penn.
I see that. Yeah.
I use the long cast 5500 on that reel.
Yep.
And I use the new Authority reel 5500 on this one.
Oh, yeah. I'm a Penn guy myself too. Yeah. Penn and Van Staal. That's what I like.
This is all stainless steel.
So, am I correct in assuming at one time you cast all the way across the canal?
4 times in 1989.
That's over 500 feet, right?
Over 786 feet.
Oh, 786? That's how wide that is? I thought it was 500.
Pole 100.
Oh, at certain, ain't that something, huh? Well, folks, this gentleman is literally in a class by himself in world class. And that was a conventional reel, right? Yeah, conventional, yeah. Was that a custom-made reel, or?
No, just an Abu 6,000 Cs.
Did you trick it out or anything?
No, I just tuned it up a bit.
Yep.
I used 20 weight 3-in-1 oil in it. That works out good for me.
Right.
And that's it.
Yep. I've seen your demonstrations at sportsman shows, and I've seen you at Red Top a few times, and yeah, very good. I'm thrilled to death to run into you, sir. And
thrilled to meet you too.
Very nice to meet you. All right, folks.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir. Mr. Ron Arra, absolute legend up in this area. Check those rods out he's got. I am shocked. That gentleman is an absolute legend up in this area, and he's held the long distance casting record for forever. He does all kind of shows, and he's endorsed by 1,000 big companies and everything, and he's a New England legend here, and I'm absolutely feel blessed to have run into him here. That's incredible, you know. Mr. Ron Arra, and welcome to the spot check portion of this week, and this is pole 355, and this is the infamous Aptuxet trading post. Been here since 1627, very historical site in there. But more importantly to us, it's the fishing spot, and it's massive. And I don't want to hear from anybody that there's too many crowds and there's nowhere else to go. There's 7 miles here, and it's so, that's all I can say is there's plenty. You just don't know. You have to come here, and don't go to the, fulfill the really ultra popular places like the railroad bridge on this end and the jetties on the other end, and all in the middle there's much less people. So the special feature about this spot is the type of riprap. I was going to say riffraff, but as you can see, there's spots you can cast right there. There's a nice flat stone you can work your way out on, and there's all kind of structure down here, and there's holes, and how you find the holes is basically cast a heavy weight out there and do countdowns. 6 seconds, 6 seconds, 6 seconds, 6 seconds, 6 seconds. When you hit 10 seconds on the drop, after 4 or 5 casts, that's a hole. And you write it down in your book, get the pole number, and that's how you do it. So extremely beautiful, picturesque spot here, and the fishing opportunity. This is a famous spot. It's a pretty good fishing spot here. There always seems to be bait moving along through here. So Abtuxet, and it's pole number 355. And that will be this week's edition of Striperquest, and I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you so much for coming along. If you can't get down here, come along with me every week. I hope you enjoyed that little surprise of meeting Mr. Arra. That guy is, cast completely across this, and apparently further at where he was at the widest point. On the average, it's 500 feet, but he says the spot that he did it is over 700 feet. So that's an incredible feat, and it's an absolute pleasure and an honor to meet a gentleman like that. And that'll be it for this show. Tune in next week and we'll see how we can do. And say your prayers. We'll see you next week, guys.